And it was a moment where I had risked everything because for 3 years, from all the department stores across the country, they all said no to carrying my products and said, you need to have models that look a specific way. And I kept fighting for this idea because no one was really doing this at the time. I'm like, what if we use all different women, all ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin challenges and me, I'll take my own makeup off and show my rosacea, right? I have a skin condition called rosacea. I'm like, let's shift culture and beauty and really try to redefine it. This was my bigger vision because I realized all growing up, like I love these ads, I would see these commercials, but at the end of the day, and I always aspired to look at them, to look like them. But at the end of the day, they always made me feel as a little girl like I wasn't enough.
But let's set the stage first, okay? Because there's some statistics early in the book that like blew my mind, particularly as it applied to women, but men aren't real far behind either. Yeah. Give us some of the data on this. Really, you talk about an epidemic. Mm-hmm. Lack of feeling worthy in someone's life. It's at epidemic levels right now. I think the digital age has even made it even worse, probably, particularly for women. But give us some of the data on why this matters so much.
Yeah, men and women. And I think, right now, for anyone listening, if you could be crushing it, hitting career goals, doing everything right, have six-pack abs, whatever it is for you. Yeah. But if deep down inside you still feel like you're not enough, it will affect every single area of your life. And so, like right now as we're speaking live, 80% of women don't believe they're enough. 75% of female executives deal with imposter syndrome. 91% of girls and women don't love their bodies. But 73% of men feel inadequate. And here's the thing is we can be really good at hiding it, but it does not mean it does not surface in every area of our life, our business, our leadership. When you believe you are fundamentally not enough and worthy as you are, like it is a lie. It is a lie that you can unlearn. And, I really wrote this book for every girl, every woman, every man, every person to literally learn what are the tools that I can actually apply to my life right now to believe I'm enough. Because Ed, in my life, like I worked really hard. I believed that if I did enough things, accomplished enough things, got enough attention, won enough awards, hit a certain number in my bank account, did what the world told me success looks like, that then I'd feel enough. And it was through doing so much of that and then literally sabotaging huge parts of my life and not knowing why, staying stuck and not knowing why. And it's because I didn't understand that I can have a whole lot of self-confidence, but if deep down inside I don't believe I'm enough, like that's what happens, right? We sabotage all these areas of our life. We stay stuck. We don't know why our business isn't doubling. We don't know why we're not happy in our marriage or in our career, and we think it's the other person. When underneath it all, if we don't learn how to build strong self-worth, it literally impacts every area of our life.
What's the difference then between self-confidence? So you're saying I could actually have self-confidence, and still not feel worthy.
Yes.
Yeah. Boy, I think you described me.
It's. Yes.
Yeah. I think you described me. Go ahead. Answer that. I want to hear this. This is really good.
Well, and I think that I'm excited for you to share. I'm excited to ask you about this in your life, Ed, because so many people know you, love you. They aspire to have what you have and to all of the things. And I think why they connect with you so deeply, in addition to that, is because you're willing to actually share what's happening deep inside of you.
So are you.
I think, here's the thing. So this is a huge, I always think of that emoji with the head exploding, right? Anyone listening right now, this may be a huge aha moment for you. And I always describe aha moment. I define it as like a moment when your knowing surpasses your conditioned belief system. An aha light bulb moment, right? This was one in my life after I thought I had accomplished it all and didn't understand why I still didn't feel enough. I learned that there is a massive difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Here's the best way I can describe it. And they're both very important in our lives, but they're very different. Self-confidence, while it's an internal trait, it's based so much on what's happening around us externally. It's how we assess our own skills and abilities, how we feel we're, stacking up against other people, our willingness to try and go for it. If we keep the promises we make to ourselves, how much of the world's definition of success that we feel we have, right? There's all the studies that show the boxer who wins the fight is automatically 30 30% more confident, right?
Yeah.
Confidence rises and falls. It's fragile. It's volatile. It fluctuates. But self-worth is actually the deep internal knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Not as you're achieving, not as you're winning or losing, not as you're, anything else going on the outside, but exactly as you are. And the kind of the way I compare them is like, self-confidence is your assessment and your abilities as a person. Self-worth is your belief in your value as a person.
Jamie, I got to tell you, I when you were writing the book the whole time, by the way, Jamie came on the show, I don't know, like a year ago, and I had excerpts from the book, and I kept telling you how incredible it was. It's different reading the whole book. It affected me much differently. And by the way, I want to be very clear. This book is not for women. It's for humans.
Yeah.
And it hit me differently. I think even I've conflated self-confidence with worth. Thinking if I became more confident, if I achieved more things, if I got, and I think I can tell you guys all truly that she's 1,000% right, that there's a distinction between the two, because I'm still working at this stage, and the book helped me, by the way. There's tools and tactics. There's lies in the book that we tell ourselves.
Yes.
She said something in the book that stood out to me. As I was reading and I was going in the room, I told you and telling my daughter, Bella, this. And I realized at one point, I didn't need to keep telling Bella all these things. I needed to sit there with it myself. And I'm 52, and I've done a lot of work, as you know, and help a lot of people. In the book, you said achievement doesn't lead to love or fulfillment.
Yes.
I think I'm like, you know what? If I just keep achieving things. If I just keep accumulating things, if I keep helping enough other people too, if I just help enough other people, it's a very different thing than worth. Confidence and achievement is very different than worth. What about you? I'm curious. Do you still struggle with any of this? As kind of the expert who's written the book?
Yeah.
And
every day. And it is a lifelong journey, but learning how to build my self-worth, for the first time in my life, I'm feeling fulfilled.
Good.
For the first time. And I want to share something you just said is so important, because so many of us believe this lie. We don't know it's a lie, but we believe, like, think everyone, with us right now, Ed, everyone listening and watching this right now, think about, has there been something in your life, a big goal or a dream where you thought, when I finally get that thing, then I'm going to be happy, then I'm going to be fulfilled, then I'm going to be enough. And maybe it's, a certain number in the bank account, or a certain job title, or when your company hits a threshold, or when you get married and have kids, or the six-pack ab, whatever it is. And then you finally got the thing. Maybe it took you years to get it. You finally got it. And then what happens? You might feel excited for a year or a month or a few hours. And before you know it, you're back down to feeling like, I still feel like something's missing. I still feel like this isn't enough. And so then what do? We think, okay, I just got to achieve more. So then we work harder and harder and harder. And listen, to your point, while you're doing this, you're building a whole lot of self-confidence, which is important. A lot of times we're growing in that process, which is important. A lot of times we're serving others, which is so important. Those three things are all very important. But none of this constant hustling, achievement, accomplishment, all the things, none of that actually builds self-worth. It builds a lot of self-confidence, but it doesn't build self-worth. And so here's the deal, y'all. Here is what low self-worth looks like in our life. And by the way, it can look like the man or woman crushing it with millions and millions of followers, or a massive company, or a whole lot of fame, or whatever your definition of success that you believe success is. It can look like that on the outside. But what self-worth looks like on the inside when it's low, okay? And see if you resonate with this at home, because a lot of people feel like, I don't understand why I'm hitting a plateau in my business. I don't understand why I feel stuck. I don't understand why I feel like unfulfilled and like something's missing. So see if one of these boxes, if you check one of these boxes, because here's what low self-worth looks like in our life, even if we're crushing it on the outside, right? If you have super low self-worth, what it looks like is you stay stuck. You're stuck and you don't know why. You know you have a book inside of you to write, but the words aren't coming. You know you have art you want to put out in the world, or this wild business idea that might be so innovative, and you don't know why you're not sharing it, or why you're not going for it, or why you haven't registered the domain, right? Because in our life, and this is across the board, I'm going to start hitting this table. I'm going to get so excited. Ed, every time, over time, we do not perform to the level of our potential. We plateau at the level of our self-worth. And this is in your career, your dreams, your hopes, your ambitions, your relationships, all of it, right? I talk about this a lot in Worthy in the book, where I say, like, we don't rise to what we believe is possible. We fall to what we believe we're worthy of. We don't soar to the level of our goals and dreams. We stay stuck at the level of our self-worth. So if you have low self-worth, like, it looks like, why am I stuck in my life? Now, if you have medium, a little bit more self-worth, here's what that looks like. And maybe this applies to someone listening right now. It looks like, okay, you believe you're worthy enough to go for it, so you go for it. But you don't quite believe you're worthy enough to get it, so you sabotage it.
Yes.
Right? If you're someone who goes for things and say you finally meet that amazing partner and you don't know why, you F the whole thing up, or you put them in the friend zone, or you're somehow not attracted to them, and you just think it's because we attract what we believe we're worthy of.
Gosh,
right?
so true.
So if you just have like low to medium self-worth, you'll go for things, but you'll either sabotage them or you'll just miss out on getting them and you don't know why. If you have medium to high self-worth, here's what that looks like. That looks like we go for the thing, like, and we actually get it. We accomplish it. We believe we're worthy of it. But when we don't have super high self-worth, we get the thing, but we still feel like something's missing.
Amen.
We still feel unfulfilled and we don't know why. Everyone in the world can tell us we're amazing, but deep down inside, we don't think we're enough. So we keep thinking we got to get more, because if we get enough, we'll finally be enough. If we achieve enough, we'll finally be enough, right? If my body fat gets low enough, I'll finally be enough. All of it's a lie. None of it leads to self-worth.
Holy Spirit's flowing through you right now, just so you know. It's awesome to watch. You're in the flow zone. Holy Spirit everywhere. Can feel it while you're talking. I just want to say that to you as your friend. Like, you're in it.
You're going to make me cry. Ed, you know this. I've never said this out loud before in public, but you know, I don't feel like I wrote this book. Like, this book came through me. And I think in our life, like, you know, because you know my life, that I have accomplished a whole lot. But I've also, like, even after selling my company for $1.2 billion cash, I had a lot of confidence, but I did not have a lot of self-worth yet. And I didn't know and I sabotaged things. And this book, I'm getting emotional because honestly, I think about every girl, every woman, every man out there who right now is going to just keep striving for all this stuff and not realize that if they just learn the tools to be enough exactly as they are, they become more fearless and go for things even more. This doesn't curb feeling strong self-worth and enough exactly as you are does not curb your ambition. Okay. It gives you more ambition, right? There's this lie that we believe that, oh, if I feel like I'm enough and worthy of love and belonging exactly as I am, I'm going to lose my edge. I'm going to lose my ambition. No, actually, when you realize, oh, wait, if I fall flat on my face, if I win, if I lose, yeah, it might affect my confidence, but it does not touch my self-worth. My self-worth is unshakable. Then that's when you become fearless. That's when you actually become more ambitious, because you don't care about the outcome, because you know it can't rattle you, right? So building strong self-worth, it's the foundation. Your confidence is the house you build upon the foundation. But that house is only as rock solid as the foundation of self-worth you have under it, that then equates to your level of fulfillment and also your level of fearlessness in going after the things, the dreams on your heart, your potential, your calling, the person you're born to be.
Oh my gosh. Like, first off, everybody, I just want to step out of this because if I won't remember because I'm so dialed in. But if you go to worthybook.com/Ed, you can qualify to get coached by Jamie and I on a coaching call with us and also get the book. And I just highly recommend you do that. So I have to tell you how this applies with me. Number one, in my baseball career, when I went away to college, I always held a little bit in reserve. I worked hard. None of my teammates or coaches, I don't think, would ever know I didn't give it everything. But I still have nightmares to this day about not making it in professional baseball after all that I've accomplished. And I've evaluated later in my life, any of you right now that aren't giving it everything you've got in a relationship or in a business or something, take this page out of my book and what Jamie just said. I'll give you the application of two things you said. I've evaluated it, and I left a little bit in the tank. Almost like, did I do it so I'd have an excuse later? Like, why did I... Just a little bit. There was more in me I could have given. And I'll regret it the rest of my life. No matter what I achieved, that was an opportunity and a moment in my life that I didn't max out. And the truth is, it's because I didn't think I was worthy of it. I just didn't. And it showed up. And I think after that, I went, you know what? That's never going to be the case again. I'm going to achieve. What I went to work on was my self-confidence, not my worth. And so I became a very self-confident man. And then I achieved. And where the worthiness thing shows up for me, just so the audience knows the areas that it can show up. I do think I'm worthy of wealth. I've produced it. I do think I'm worthy of feeling some happiness and joy in my life. I actually have that. For me, the worthiness thing shows up in love.
Yeah.
I give love to all other people. But in my own life, in my quiet moments, I don't allow myself to feel it very often, even from people who truly love me. I don't allow myself to feel it and experience it on a deep level, not the way that I should. And my evaluation in reading your work just this last week again was like, that's because I don't think I'm worthy of it. And so I won't allow myself to feel that. I'll give it. But that area of my life, feeling loved, I think just because of the way I was raised or whatever it is, I just don't feel like I'm worthy of it. And yet, when I read the book, I learned tools on how to begin to change that. Yeah. So I want to tell you that it profoundly affected me, someone that you know very, very well. But did that show up for you too, the love part of it? Because obviously you produced a lot of wealth, a lot of success, a lot of notoriety. But it was the love part in my life, like just feeling loved, that I never allowed myself, and still don't most of the time, to experience. That's where it shows up for me.
And I know, obviously, I won't call this out here, but I know also when that can look like keeping friends in our life that don't love us back the way we love them, that don't show up for us. Yeah. Right? You and I both have done that. Yeah. Also, I just want to say this, that, you know, a lot of your audience might know these parts of your stories from your book, The Power of One More, from other areas. When you were growing up, you were the one that had to love everyone else. You were the one, Ed, that like took care of your family. You were the one that so many times had to be the man of the house. You were the one that had to see, is my dad going to enter the key and I'm going to hear it and know within a second he's drunk right now and I'm going to have to protect my mom. Like you were the one giving all the love. Yeah. And so, you know, for those of us who've gone through tough experiences, which a lot of us have in different ways. Yeah,
you have for sure.
Learning to love ourselves right now. First of all, it will impact every relationship in your entire life, because whether you're talking about your romantic partner or your kids or your friends, your depth, all the studies will prove this, your depth of connection and love with them between you and them can only be as strong as your depth of love and connection with yourself. And we have this lie that tells us, oh, loving myself is selfless, or it's some kind of woo-woo stuff, or this or that. Oh, Like doing the work to learn to believe you are lovable, worthy of love, and actually loving yourself and connecting with yourself. So many of us go through the entire day. We know how to like deliver for everyone else, please everyone else, make everyone else happy. We don't even know how we feel. We don't know how we feel. We're not connected to ourselves. We don't believe we're worthy of connecting to ourselves. It impacts every other relationship. And then we end up feeling lonely. Yeah. So there's a lot of us that can serve and give and show up the way we think everyone else needs, but we actually feel lonely, and we don't realize we're robbing them of a depth of connection if we don't do the work on learning to believe we're worthy exactly as we are and learning to love ourselves, right? And there's a lot of tools in the book Worthy on how to do this. There's a whole section on self-worth shortcuts, and this has shown up in my life a lot.
Give us one of them right now. And I'm going to ask you about the disconnection thing, because you asked me last night, what are your favorite parts of the book? I think it probably surprised you what some of my favorite parts of the book were, but one of them is on disconnection.
Yes.
Because I'm familiar with it, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But give us one little tip from the book.
I will. Okay. Before I forget to say this to you, I just have to say it. I want to thank you for being so generous, because when people go to worthybook.com/Ed, if you pre-order, you're getting a coaching call live with me and Ed.
Yep.
Everybody who does that at worthybook.com/Ed is getting a live coaching call with Ed and me. I'm so excited about it, but I know how precious your time is, and I just want to say thank you for that.
I'm honored to do it.
Okay, so two things. Actually, why don't I just go there? Okay. I have never said these words out of my mouth ever publicly in my life, and you now know this story. My mom, who passed away last year, knows this story. That's it until this book comes out. I never knew growing up why I didn't feel enough. And I mean, I learned later in life I was adopted. I learned all the things. My parents worked a ton. I was alone a lot. But I believed the lie that achievement equaled love, or attention equaled love. And when I was 18, I started working in a health club in sales. And I was a receptionist. And then what happened is that all the salespeople got so busy, they asked me to start doing club tours. It was this health club with 8,000 members. I'd do the club tour and I'd have to present the membership pricing at the end. I started crushing it in sales, right? And all of a sudden, I was outperforming the sales team. Now, you're promoted in this health club not based on your qualifications or if you're even mature enough to handle it. It's pure numbers. All they care about is who's making the most money. So I get promoted to sales, into sales. And then I start crushing it in the sales team and I get promoted to assistant manager, eventually manager. All the people reporting into me are like twice my age, and they're people that have been selling their whole career.
Here we go, you guys. You're going to believe this.
There's one guy in particular who, Ed, let me just, I'm going to be embarrassed saying this out loud in front of you.
Great.
Okay, he was the first guy in my life where I was like, he is so hot. By the way, he's double my age. Okay, he's double my age and he's dating a number of women, and he literally looks like an A-list celebrity to me. I'll never forget one moment. I'm standing there at the front desk closing another sale, like recording it. He walks by, and you know that moment when someone holds eye contact with you and you know that moment just shifted and you're no longer just friends. In this case, I was his boss.
You were his boss when he's twice
and
your age.
And he's twice my age. And also I knew he was dating half of the other, he was dating so many women. At the time, I had a lot of confidence. I was crushing sales. My numbers were top every week, right? But I did not have a lot of self-worth. And we started dating. I fell in love. I was in love. And I eventually said, let's just be exclusive. And he's like, no. No. And I was like, okay, I had to decide in that moment. Do I want to love him and betray myself? And I chose to. And because again, we're talking about careers, business, all the ways self-worth, it can impact your relationships. It can impact every area of your life. And I literally was just crushed every week over and over and over and over and stayed in that relationship. And eventually I decided to leave and move off to college. So now we break up. I go off to college and I'm waitressing at Denny's. I get a job waitressing at Denny's. These are the words I have never shared. Self-confidence and self-worth are completely different. We so easily confuse the two, and understanding the difference is literally the one thing that will change everything in your life. There are so many of us, myself included, who have actually done so much great work to build self-confidence. But then we sabotage things, we stay stuck, we don't get what we want because we don't realize, I have a whole lot of self-confidence, but I actually don't have strong self-worth. And they're very different. They're very, very different. So self-worth is truly the one thing that can change everything in your life. In your life, your relationships, your goals, your dreams, your ambitions, your amount of joy and fulfillment. So in Worthy, which is all about, how to believe you're enough and transform your life, there's simple steps that give life-changing results. There is an entire chapter called The One Thing That Changes Everything. And I break down, and I'm going to share right now in this video as well, but I go deep in here on breaking down the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Both are important, but so many of us literally live our entire lives just building self-confidence. And then we never realize, why don't we feel like we're enough? We keep accomplishing more and more and more, and we finally do enough and have enough and become enough and all that, but we still don't feel like we're enough. It's because of not understanding the difference, and it's because of doing all the things that build self-confidence, but none of the things that build self-worth. So let me just break this down for a minute, because this is so important, okay? Self-confidence, while an internal trait, is actually based on so much happening around you externally, and it fluctuates all the time. Self-confidence, while an internal trait, is based on so much externally. So your self-confidence right now is based on things like your own assessment of your skills and abilities, your willingness to try and go for it, if you keep the promises you make to yourself, how you feel you stack up or compare to others, how much of the world's definition of success you believe you have. All those things impact your self-confidence. It can rise and fall quickly based on if you're winning or losing, right? There's studies that show the boxer who wins the match is automatically 30% more confident, right? Your confidence fluctuates. It's fragile. It's volatile. Your self-worth is the deep internal belief in knowing that you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Not as you achieve, not as what's happening all around you in the outside world, but knowing you are worthy of love and belonging exactly as you are. Another way to put this is self-confidence is your belief in your abilities as a person. Self-worth is your belief in your value as a person. Your self-worth is the foundation. Your self-confidence is the house you build upon it. But you'll only ever be as strong as the foundation that house is built upon. And here's what this looks like in our lives, right? So many of us, let me just ask you this question right off the top. Have you ever had something you really wanted, and you thought, if I eventually get that thing, then I'll be happy. Then I'll be fulfilled. Then I'll feel enough. Maybe it is a job title, or it's a certain number in the bank account, or it's, 6-pack abs, a certain goal weight. Maybe it is, running the triathlon or doing the triathlon. Maybe it's getting the white picket fence or getting married or, falling in love or having 2.5 kids. Have you ever wanted that thing and just thought, one day when I get that, then I'll finally feel happy and fulfilled? And then for so many of us, we've had those things and then we get the thing, right? For some of us, we work really, really hard for years and we finally get the thing. And let me ask you this, when you finally got the thing, then what happened? Were all your hopes and dreams did they miraculously happen? Were you happy and fulfilled and enough forever? Or did you feel this temporary high followed by a slow descent back to feeling like something's missing and like you don't know what's missing, but you just feel like you're not enough and something's missing from your life? Okay, here's why. It's because in the pursuit of all those things, you built a whole lot of self-confidence, but none of those things build self-worth. Self-confidence is really, really important in life, as is growth, always growing in one area or another, as is contributing to something greater than yourself. Those three things are really important, but you multiply all those by your level of self-worth to get your level of ultimate fulfillment in life. Building strong self-worth is truly the one thing that changes everything. It's why I wrote Worthy. There's over 20 tools in here on how to build strong self-worth. Because here's the deal. When you don't, and by the way, there have been so many times in my life where I had so much confidence and I didn't understand why I didn't feel enough, or I didn't understand why I sabotaged an opportunity, or I didn't understand why I stayed stuck and didn't put my art or my ideas or my full expression of my business out there. It's because we will not, over time, we will not perform to the level of our potential. We will plateau at the level of our self-worth. Every time, over time. Every time, over time. It's why you've seen people out there in the world that can achieve everything, have every level of what the world defines success as, fame, fortune, whatever it might be. And they're not happy. Right? Strong self-worth is literally the one thing that changes everything. And if you are wondering if this is an issue in your life, there's really 3 ways that low self-worth can show up, right? One, if we have really, really, really low self-worth, we'll stay stuck. We'll know we have great ideas or we're deserving of an amazing romantic relationship, but we'll stay stuck in one that's not good for our soul.
And we don't realize it's because we don't fully feel we're worthy of a great relationship, right? We'll stay stuck and not go after the thing. We'll stay stuck and not write the first word of our book that we know we're born to write. We'll just stay stuck and never go for the thing because we don't believe we're worthy of it. We don't realize that's what it is, but that's so often what it is. So that's one way of staying stuck, right? Another way is if we have, a little bit more self-worth, maybe low self-worth, we'll actually go for things and then we'll sabotage them. We'll meet a really incredible potential partner and we'll somehow mess it up or put them in the friend zone. We literally sometimes just aren't even attracted to them and we don't know why, even though they're a great person. It's because when deep down inside we have low self-worth, we don't believe we're worthy of it. Or we'll go after a big opportunity and we'll be so confident doing it and then we'll just somehow sabotage it. And then if you have medium self-worth, but it's not quite high, you'll actually go for things. You'll accomplish them, right? You may even believe you're worthy of them. But if you only have medium level self-worth, you'll arrive at them and still feel like you're not enough. You'll still feel empty inside. There's so many people in marriages or in, incredible situations in their career where they feel like something's missing, like it's not enough. And they don't know what it is. So they think it's their partner or they think it's their job, right? What it is deep down inside, they haven't done the work to build strong, unshakable self-worth. Your self-worth is the one thing that literally changes everything. So step one is to be aware of the difference between self-confidence and self-worth. Your self-worth is your unremitting identity and your belief that you are enough exactly as you are. And by the way, when you learn to believe you're enough exactly as you are, it doesn't prevent you from being ambitious. It actually gives you more ambition because you're not afraid to fail because it doesn't impact your self-worth. You're not afraid to put yourself out there to go for things, even if you fall flat on your face, because that might hurt your confidence for a minute, but it does not determine your self-worth. Your self-worth is deep, it's internal, it's unwavering. It's why I wrote Worthy, because literally when you learn to build your self-worth, there's over 20 tools in here on how to do it. It is the one thing that transforms everything.
There's so much in this book, and this book is not my story. This book is 20 plus tools on building unshakable self-worth. But I weave some stories in here I've never shared before because
it qualifies you, Jamie. This qualifies you. And go ahead. You said because.
Well, I almost took these stories out so many times.
Yeah, you told me you were thinking about it. I didn't know what they were until I read it. But thank God you didn't.
I just kept remembering the intention of this book. It is not about me. Like for anybody listening to us right now who feels like their past and their failures and their mistakes and the people they've hurt and the things that they feel like, as you would say, disqualify them from their dreams, right? Like so many people feel that way and they're staying here thinking, oh, I failed so many times, that means I'm a failure. They let it take root at an identity level. I've been rejected so many times, I'm a reject. Or I've made so many mistakes and bad decisions, I'm a mistake. And that is a lie. It is a lie that impacts our self-worth. It's a lie that you can unlearn. But here's the problem. I was at a moment in my life, I'm waitressing at Denny's, I have big dreams on my heart, and I start to miss the fact that I'm crushing numbers every week and that I'm having all of this sales success and all this attention and this money. And I'm like, okay, I'm waitressing at Denny's, busting my butt, hoping that someone throws a few dimes on the table because I'm in a college town where everyone has no money. And here's what happened, Ed, and this is for everybody listening. When we have low self-worth, even when we don't realize it, we get confused about a few things in life that are key. We get confused when we do not feel we are enough as we are. Attention starts looking like love. External significance starts looking like success. Validation from others starts looking like worthiness. And I was missing all of those things that I thought were love and worthiness. And the way it manifested in my life is I drove to the biggest city. I've never shared this before. I drove to the biggest city about an hour and a half away. Didn't even know what I was going to do, frankly. I was just like, stopped at an adult entertainment club, also known as a strip club, walked inside, saw all of these waitresses in these black pants and white shirts, and then all of these dancers not wearing anything. I remember the first time I walked in, there was like 30 or so patrons, men sitting in the audience, and I talked to a waitress there. And she told me like she makes a few $100 a shift selling sodas. They didn't even have alcohol there, selling sodas. And I literally applied for a job and got hired that day in the strip club. And I would waitress all week at Denny's, and I'd drive up there on the weekends, and then I'd waitress in the strip club. Now wearing black pants, a white shirt, but thinking, maybe I'll also dance, right? And in that club, for me in that moment, two big things. One, attention. I was confusing attention with love. Yeah. I started dating someone who is a patron of the club. And I remember there was this moment where he took me to a firing range. And I'm out in the middle of nowhere in some city I don't know anybody in with this dude I barely know holding this gun at a firing range, and we're shooting targets. And I remember it was so loud. And I was like, okay. Like he loved it. You know, a lot of people love hobbies like that. And I was just like, I was more scared than I was interested at that point. And I remember just sort of losing connection with him over time. And eventually one night he drove me home from the strip club about an hour and a half back to my college apartment. And I decided to break up with him. Yeah. And in that moment, I remember looking in the back of his Jeep and seeing all of these guns and just going, what am I doing with my life? Yeah. Like, what am I doing with my life?
Even made sure the door was unlocked.
Yeah. Because I was like going through my head, like, you know, because when I broke up with him, he got really quiet and I got really scared. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? And I was like making sure the door was unlocked because I had to dive out in the middle of the highway. Like it was so scary. And I remember he dropped me off at my college apartment and we never spoke again. But that moment was a low for me in the sense where I was like, what am I doing with my life? And, you know, you often talk about the thermostat example that, you know, if we believe we're a 75 in identity or self-worth and things go lower, you know, we'll warm it back up a little bit. And at that moment, you know, a couple big things happened in my life that I share in the book that helped me start to build self-worth and to believe I'm enough. But here's what I want to say. There's a lot of things like this and others that I share in the book because I could have gone, okay, no one in my family has ever gone to college, or I've done these kind of things or hung out with these kind of people. I talk in the book about getting arrested for the first time and dating a guy who stole cars all the time. And
14 years old.
Yeah. And what it was like to be booked into juvie and just like all of these things where I could have said to myself, like, oh, you know, all the things I've done that are bad means I'm bad. And that's one of the biggest lies we are so tempted to tell ourselves. All the things in my past that I'm embarrassed of or ashamed of or mortified of or the mistakes I made or whatever it might be mean I'm a mistake. And it's a lie. And we attach these labels to ourselves. I have a whole chapter in Worthy called Labels and how we believe these labels that someone else has said about us or that we've stuck on ourselves. We believe they're permanent. Yep. And we let them take root, but they're not. They're like Post-it notes with that light adhesive. You can peel them right off, right? And I go through how to do that. But I could have doubted myself out of my own destiny, right? A lot of people, if they Google my story, you won't find any of this. Yep. What you find is, oh, you know, Denny's waitress builds billion-dollar company. Right. She's on the Forbes list. She taught a class with Oprah this year. Yep. You see all that. And you might think like, oh, things like that happen to other people, not people who have made so many mistakes like I have, or not people who have been through what I've been through. And I finally decided to keep some of the stuff in the book because this book is not about me. It's for every single person who has some self-doubt to destroy and a destiny to fulfill. And here's the thing I want to say too, Ed, about this is I believe, every person listening, I believe our steps are ordered. I believe our lives are divinely orchestrated. And let me tell you something right now. When I built It Cosmetics, when we have millions and millions and millions of paying customers in the US and built this whole movement, like it was not an accident I worked in a strip club. It wasn't an accident I waitressed at Denny's. It wasn't an accident that I was selling in the health club and understood what it's like to love someone else at the expense of loving myself. I believe Because what I learned my friends who work with me in the strip club, in the adult entertainment club, my friends there are the same as my friends sitting next to me in my college classes, as the professors teaching, as the people waitressing with me at Denny's, as the now fellow CEOs and fellow billionaires I know, right? They're the same. At our core, we all want to know we're enough, that we're worthy of love and belonging. Every one of us, we're the same.
I've never been more proud of you. The reason I'm just sitting here watching you is like, when I read it, I was proud of you, but to see you talk about it, it's even another level to have to verbalize it, I think. And I just hope everyone gains some measure of hope. You know, that who would have pictured this girl who's working at the fitness club, dating a guy basically double her age, and you're going to go, don't worry. Someday, young lady, you're going to reach millions of people on stages and inspire them to change your life. And then fast forward a little bit, and you're with this dude you meet in a strip club that you're working at, and just you're not treating yourself, betraying yourself, to use your words earlier, and say, don't worry, young lady, someday you're going to sell your company for over $1 billion. I just hope all of you gain some hope from this, and that if you have somebody in your life who's currently making a mistake or not living true to their integrity or their character, send them this interview. So have them go get the book. Have them go to worthybook.com/Ed. Have them go there and hear this story, because it's one thing, Denny's waitress, to exiting for $1 billion. How inspiring. She must be perfect. She just worked hard as a waitress. No, there's some mess in there, and your mess does not disqualify you. And I think the other reason it's so powerful, Rory said this first on the show, and you and I talk about it a lot too, but you're most qualified to help the person or people you used to be. If you used to be so perfect, who are you here to help? But all of you just realize that this woman who's built this remarkable life, she's literally one of the most admired women currently living on earth. She is one of the most admired women, one of the most admired people on the planet right now. She's the person in my life outside of family that I admire the most, right? To think that at some point she was dating some dude double her age, working in a gym, getting attention, letting him date other women, that she would see the other women he was dating. It wasn't like he was hiding it. Then she goes to work at a strip club. And before that, she was arrested at 14 years old. This is not perfect little Jamie that everybody thinks they know. This is someone who's a flawed human being who's worked on her worthiness and has the pathway to do it in her life. I'm asking you this. I'm just curious. How about right now? Like, you sit in front of me, you've had all these accomplishments. Do you still have any struggles with this stuff, like to this day? Because stuff I teach people how to get better at, most of the time it's still stuff that I'm working on myself and I struggle. So does Jamie Kern Lima still struggle to this day with her worthiness?
Every single day, and a little less every single day. I think it's a lifelong journey. And here's a huge breakthrough that I'm going to share. First on your show. I've never spoken about this before, but it is powerful. It's changed my life. Is there is a massive difference between self-confidence and self-worth.
What's the difference?
Okay, so here's the thing. And y'all, when I had this breakthrough and really started doing the work here, it changed everything in my life. So self-confidence, right? It's deeply internal, of course. It's a trait, but it is most closely linked with external things. So, the willingness to try, the confidence to try, the willingness to go for it, how you assess things on the outside, meaning how you assess your strengths, your skills, how you compare to others, right? Your self-confidence you build, and it's super, super important, but it is most closely linked to things that can fluctuate, that aren't always in your control, right? Like there's a boxer story about how, the boxer that wins is automatically 20% more, a better boxer because all of a sudden they believe they are, right? But all of a sudden, if that guy loses or that woman loses, 3 or 4 times in a row, their self-confidence can fluctuate. And your self-worth is deeply internal. It's believing you are enough exactly as you are. You are enough. You are valuable. You're worthy exactly as you are. It's deeply internal, and it doesn't fluctuate based on external things. Now, here's the big breakthrough. you can be. So for anyone listening right, I'm gonna get fired up. I'm gonna jump out of the seat. Jump out of the seat. For anyone listening right now, if you are someone who is like, okay, when this thing finally happens, then I'm gonna be enough. When I finally get married or have the kids, or I finally hit 7 figures in my business, or 8 figures, or 9 figures, or 10 figures. When I finally get my 6-pack, when I finally, right? And then you get that thing, and it's like, okay, it's great for a minute.
Yes.
But it's never quite enough.
Yes.
It's because you have built confidence. You have built confidence in that journey. Now you have confidence in your body and your 6-pack. Now you have confidence in your business, but your self-worth has not changed. And there are so many people, and this is me most my entire life, where I thought if I achieve enough, I'll finally feel enough. Yeah. If I accomplish this thing, if I build $1 billion business, if I feel confident in a swimsuit, whatever it is, then I'll finally feel enough. But you can have all the confidence in the world, and you will not be fulfilled if you do not have strong self-worth. And that is huge because...
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Can I just say something? Wow. You just described me. Yeah. Like even now.
Yeah.
That is awesome what you just flipping said right there. Holy smokes. Because you and I talk all the time. You've never said that to me before. Whoa. So sorry, you guys. So I just want to say this to you. I have really built a lot of self-confidence, but I don't know that I built that much self-worth. And so it is why I haven't enjoyed a lot of the successes that I've had. And to the extent that I have, and you too.
Yeah.
Man, you are on there. Do you think the self-worth thing for most people is, not all of it, but do you think a lot of it is shaped in childhood from experiences? Because I know being raised by an alcoholic, it's pretty hard to have a lot of self-worth, right? Because I don't think my dad had self-worth. And I think, I don't want to assume everybody knows this. Tell them a little bit about your childhood. And do you think a lot of this is shaped self-worth early in our lives? I know there could be an event later where you're like, I just lost all my self-worth. He left me, or I went bankrupt, or she cheated on me, or whatever it might be. But I do think a lot of it can come from childhood.
It can. It's also, though, reinforced our whole life. We're in a culture that rewards when you do things that get external applause. They're almost always tied to confidence or productivity or things that are external. And we grow up believing that if we do those things, we'll be happy. Every single, commercial or ad, or most companies are based on you achieving an emotion if you get this thing, but it's almost always external. And then we're raised by families often, whether they're well-intended, healthy or not. We've never learned this. We've never learned this.
Where did you get this distinction from?
Huge breakthrough, actually, over a really mortifying, embarrassing story I've never shared before, that has to do with Oprah. And by the way, Ed, I want to say this is something I believe affects everybody. I think that, if you really, I don't want to get too granular here because we'll be on for hours, but you think about, look at our country, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's something that we have to pursue. It's not like, oh, we shouldn't innately be happy, right? There's so many things all around us. I don't want to get started. I didn't come here to look cute today. Let's go. I'm like fired up. But here's the thing. There's so many things all around us that tell us if we finally get the thing, if we finally are, whatever, then we'll be happy. And I believe a couple things. I believe you need both self-worth and self-confidence, right? Just because you have self-worth and believe you're enough as you are doesn't mean you're now complacent and you're like just chilling, because that's not a recipe for fulfillment either. But if you do not have self-worth, you will never be truly fulfilled, no matter how much you accomplish. So you need both, right? So you need both of those things. And this is why I wrote Worthy, and it's why it's such a breakthrough, because for anyone out there who does not feel like they're enough, and maybe you're really good at hiding it because you are crushing it in every area of your life, or you're just really good at being the strong one, or whatever it might be. But I believe that deep lack of internal worthiness is why nothing ever feels enough. It's why we don't feel enough. It's why we finally get that big thing and then we're not happy or fulfilled. Or it's why we sabotage things in our life because we don't believe we're worthy of them. And so how this happened for me is, my whole life, I grew up watching Oprah in my living room. And that was sort of like, my whole life, I thought one day, I am going to interview other people and share their stories with the world. And I just always knew. And I had this knowing that made no sense, but I just knew I would meet her. I just knew it. And I was like this little girl in a suburb in Washington State.
Like everybody else was, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, like exactly.
Yeah.
And when I eventually went, it's a long story that I'll cut because I want to get to the point of it. But I eventually met her at one of her live events backstage. And after meeting her, I wrote her a very long email. And through sheer grace, it got forwarded and she eventually got it. And long story short, she invited me to lunch at her house. So this is, I'm cutting through a lot of how this happened. But I had lunch with Oprah at her home.
Look how you just said that. I had lunch with Oprah. Did you hear though? She just said, just so you know, this little girl who's adopted, who's watching her on television, ends up, you just knew, but now I'm invited. I mean, put yourself in this position, everybody, whoever your hero is, and that Oprah was your hero for the most part, right?
Yeah.
Your hero is now inviting you to lunch because that part of it matters because of the rest of the story, what happens afterwards. So now you're going to go see Oprah. Go ahead.
Yes, I know you're one of the few people on the planet that knows the story. So I'm going to share it for the first time. And honestly, it's embarrassing, but sometimes the biggest struggles or setbacks or mortifying moments or pain we go through is like not a setback. It's really a setup for what we're supposed to do. And and this certainly was for me. So I end up going to Oprah's house, literally shaking in my boots. But also, I was in this moment in my life. This was about 5 or 6 years ago. Super confident. I was so confident. I had just, my company was exploding and I was so proud of, impacting millions and millions of women and trying to change the definition of beauty in the industry and all these things. And I was really self-confident and also, of course, crazy nervous to meet her and really actually sit down. And we had lunch for several hours, just me and her. And at the very end of lunch at her house, she wrote down her cell number. She gave me her cell phone number and said, call me anytime, just like that. And I left and I did not call her for 4 years.
Oh my gosh.
I didn't call her for 4 years. And when we talk about sabotaging something, right? Yeah. And anyone out there who has done this in some area of their life, in a relationship, a friendship, a career move, whatever it might be, this was like, for me, the person that, my whole life, now I have her cell phone number. Right. For 4 years, I would tell myself things like, oh, you know what? Like, I don't have the right thing to say yet, but when I get the right thing, then I'm going to call her. Or, oh, everyone always wants something from her, right? I'd make up this story. I'd tell myself, everyone always wants things from her. I want to make sure she knows I don't want things from her. I'm here for real, true friendship. So I'm not going to bug her. Or I would always tell myself these versions of why I wasn't calling her. And 4 years went by.
That's incredible.
And I had this huge epiphany. I was like, oh, I'm not calling Oprah because deep down inside, I don't think I'm worthy of being her friend.
In spite of all your success.
Yep. So at that moment, I realized this was a huge breakthrough because I realized, oh, I have a lot of self-confidence, but not self-worth.
Gosh, Jamie.
And you can have one without the other. And it's why when you keep accomplishing things or you keep, the thing finally happens, you finally, get that dream relationship, you finally have the kids or you finally have the breakthrough in your business. But you're like, why am I not happy? Why am I not fulfilled? Why isn't it not enough? Huge breakthrough for me. And when I realized it, A, I was super embarrassed, but B, I realized that is my head, my own self-doubt, my own lack of self-worth telling me these things. But in my soul, I know I am definitely worthy of being her friend because I'm a kick-ass friend. Like I'm a ride.
You're an unbelievable friend.
I'm like, I am a ride or die friend. Like so I'm like, I know in my soul I'm worthy of being her friend. And that was the moment I decided to call her.
It's unreal.
Yeah.
Now here, Shayla Atkins asked another question, which I think is so great. She's a big fan as well. And what she's interested in is, obviously you've worked very hard. It is now this incredible brand, like you said, #1 luxury cosmetic brand in the country, all of those things. But you're a mom, you're a human being, all of those things. Shayla's like, how does she stay grounded? How does she still stay true to herself? As these big things are happening for you, How do you stay grounded? How do you stay true to Jamie?
Yeah. I think that, yeah, it's been a wild journey. Like in the days where I was a waitress at Denny's, I don't know if I could have ever imagined some of the stuff that I've gone through in the past couple of years
Right.
happening. Um, I stay grounded in my faith, and
Yeah.
I believe a couple of things. I believe all of us are on this earth not to achieve things or get significance or accomplish things. I think we're here to compete with only who the person God made us capable of becoming
Mm,
is. And I stay grounded in my faith, and I try to listen to that still small voice inside and trust it. And what I mean by that is a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago now, I had this huge moment, Mitch. I don't think I've ever talked about this, maybe with a
wow.
friend, but
Yeah.
um, and because I spent years building the company in our living room, and I'll never forget our first office. And we outgrew it so fast, but everyone's desks became like, if you got hired as a new employee, we would take a huge FedEx box or UPS box. That was your desk because we were out of space. Like,
Congratulations, right?
yes,
Exactly.
welcome to It Cosmetics. Um, like it was so scrappy for so long. And we eventually moved into bigger offices and bigger offices.
Mm,
And about a year and a half, 2 years ago, we had just moved into like 60,000 square foot office.
wow.
I had this moment where I was sitting there, and L'Oreal acquired us in 2016, and I stayed on as CEO, and doubled the size of the company the first 2 years post acquisition, just poured my heart into it
Yeah.
because I believe in our mission. I believe in everything L'Oreal is doing and the It Cosmetics team is doing, and just poured my heart and soul. And there was this moment where I was sitting in my brand new office,
Mm,
in looking around at what the world tells me success and significance are. It was like this corner office overlooking the skyline of Manhattan. It looks like something I grew up seeing only in movies,
right.
with the most beautiful art everywhere. And this, like, the my corner office is bigger than almost any place I've ever lived in, right? And I'm sitting there, no, really, and I'm
Yeah.
sitting there, and I have a moment. I just want to share this with anyone listening. I have
Mm,
this moment where I feel, this is how I hear God. I feel like I'm supposed, I'm done. Like all of a
wow.
sudden it was all there, and it was a brand new office, right? And I knew if I stayed, I love the team. I love the team so much. But everything's a well-oiled machine now.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I could stay and have the glamorous parts of everything, have the big office, have all the stuff, the biggest brand in the country. And I just felt this calling, like this calling on my heart that says, you're supposed to serve in a whole different way now. And I had said no to
Wow.
writing a book for years because I didn't want to ghostwrite. I wanted to write every word myself
Yeah.
if I was ever going to do it. And I just had this feeling like you're supposed, now that you've gotten to this spot and you have all the fancy stuff now, if you stay in that, it could come at the price of the calling on your life. And
Wow.
but I think a lot of people, we get tempted when stuff is what the world tells us matters.
Yeah.
And I made the decision. I sobbed my eyes out in that office.
Wow.
And I was just looking around at everything because I couldn't even believe how beautiful it was. This is the first time I ever stepped foot in this office. And I went in on a weekend all alone, and it was all done.
No kidding.
My It Cosmetics assistant was there too with me. And I was just sobbing in there because I couldn't believe how beautiful it was. But I also knew in my heart
Yeah.
that it was time to serve in a different way. And I made the
Wow.
decision um, to step away from this dream I'd built in my living room, because I have tried to live my whole life that way. And I think everyone listening right now, like, it comes in all different forms for us, right? It
Yep.
might be like stepping into a dream, stepping away from one, start again. I used this example earlier, but starting to paint again, started like
Yep.
writing the first page of your book. Like, I feel like the most important decisions in life come down to when we trust ourselves. So anyhow, Yeah, that happened.
Uh,
And
I love that. Thank you for being generous to share that story, because, and I think that's also such a beautiful picture that what I love, and it's been such an honor to be, with Dream, Think, Do, we've been able to talk with so many people about their journeys. And I so appreciate you being real with us yet again, in the book and then here. But I think that's a great picture too, that like, as we walk out dreams, it's so often that next thing, which some might say is the next dream, is revealed only as a part of the journey, right? Like you wouldn't have gotten that had you not continued to walk out the journey. And so to be able to say, hey, isn't that part of the adventure too, of being able to say, I wonder what future journeys will be. I wonder what will be revealed as we step further into this thing. And so I'm getting goosebumps as you tell that story. So I'm so honored that you'd be here. I'm so honored you'd share that particular story. And I think it's going to so resonate with Dream, Think, Doers.
In this everyday situation, because we all, and by the way, another reason I love this Growth Day morning show is because I do believe energy is contagious. And I think that it's just so important for every one of us to even spend this time. And, we're here live for 30 minutes, Monday through Friday, in the morning, 7:30 Pacific. But even if you hop in for 5 minutes, right? I just think that being around this kind of energy is contagious. We don't all have that inside our homes. We don't all have that inside our communities. And also some of us that are really used to having that, everyone else that maybe poured into us that energy and that joy, they're going through hard times right now too, right? So it's just overall a big hard time. But Brendan, for each and every person right now, what is your advice, and maybe even what you're getting out of what you're reading now, but everything else, and how do you summon that? How do you summon that confidence and that vision for something bigger than yourself, and that to take you out of just the hard season around you that you're going through? How does every person on an everyday level sitting in their living room do that? Just that
I love
question.
it. Well, it's so funny. You all know I love coaching, and part of coaching is always the person who just asked the question almost always answered it. And so your question was, how do people summon that? And in that question is the answer, which is, you have to realize confidence is not something you have. Good energy is not something you have. Happiness is not something you have. It doesn't exist. It's something you choose to summon. Mm-hmm. So if you're sitting on the couch and feeling bad, don't hope that purpose lands on you. Don't hope that joy lands on you. Don't hope that confidence, it doesn't land on you randomly. What happens is you go, oh, I need to focus my attention and my awareness. I need to bring my full presence towards this outcome in which I want right now. My outcome in which I want right now is presence or energy or confidence. And then your mind has to be, oh, I have to summon that. I have to ask, what is within me? What is the strength within me? What is it that I want to achieve and move out here? And for those who don't know, and you just need hope, sometimes it's just as simple as writing down your vision or your goals or your dream or that house that you want down the street or that thing that you want over here. And like just thinking about it and looking at it and going, okay, how would I have to show up to have that? What would I need to do today to move towards that? What small step could I take to inch me towards that right now? Okay, small step, turn off TV, stop the scroll, write down the goal, do this thing over here, like small things enacted. See, confidence so often comes from capability. Capability comes from competence. Competence comes from consistency, right? You develop greater, like it's almost just like, you want to feel better? Get momentum, babe. Mm-hmm. Get a little momentum behind you again. Small steps, small actions, a little momentum, a little breath behind the sails. And all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm moving towards this thing. I'm feeling a little better. It doesn't matter if it's cleaning up the house or starting a new launch or doing the thing. Get a little momentum behind and then remind yourself consistently of that bigger picture. Remind yourself. Like for me, I have to look at something. I'm very visual, as you know. So I've got charts and diagrams and dreams and all this stuff, all pinned to this little board over here. And I got to stand in. I'm always telling the Growth Day this. I know they're going to sometimes. I stand in front of every day for 5 minutes. Even today, when I was so busy before we gone on, I stood before 5 minutes so I could see, oh, this goal, that thing, that dream. Here's my calendar. That's what makes me happy. All right, that makes me happy. That makes me confident. Okay, that makes me confident. Okay, and I'm taking it in every day. Think about this. If I'm a professional at this, guys, I'm literally paid to do this work. And I still have to stand in front of a board to motivate myself, to remind myself of what the fundamentals are in personal development to be happy or confident. I'm guessing everybody else should be doing it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what about you though? Because, you
Yeah.
face so much. How do you summon
Well, and I
yourself?
think I think for me, I have to keep it about something bigger than myself, no matter what I do. I mean, I remember, one story where after 3 years of hearing no from QVC, right? So I had created this business in my living room, got down to no money in our account, kept sending my products to all the retailers for years. And finally got one shot on QVC. And it's a long story, which I'll share for another day. But in that moment, when I had this one shot, it was this 10-minute window. And I knew, oh my gosh, if this goes well, this could change everything, right? It could open doors for my whole company. If this doesn't go well, I'm out of business and I'm bankrupt. And it was this one moment. And not to oversimplify the moment, but it really came down to me not making it about myself. And what I mean by that is, QVC, you're live in front of 100 million homes, right? And I remember, yeah, and there's no script.
It feels about that right there.
There's no script, there's no teleprompter. It's you and the host. And then, in my case, because I was in the beauty space, there's models that are going to model product. And it was a moment where I had risked everything because for 3 years, from all the department stores across the country, they all said no to carrying my products and said, you need to have models that look a specific way. And I kept fighting for this idea because no one was really doing this at the time. I'm like, what if we use all different, women, all ages and shapes and sizes and skin tones and skin challenges and me, I'll take my own makeup off and show my rosacea, right? I have a skin condition called rosacea. I'm like, let's shift culture and beauty and really try to redefine it. This was my bigger vision because I realized all growing up, like I love these ads. I would see these commercials, but at the end of the day, and I always aspired to look at them, to look like them. But at the end of the day, they always made me feel as a little girl like I wasn't enough, right? So I had this big vision, big vision of, okay, let me try to show all different types of people as models, call them beautiful, mean it, shift culture for every little girl out there who's about to start doubting herself, every grown person who does. So I'm pitching this like and everyone's saying no, that this is never going to work for 3 years. And part of how I kept confidence in that journey was just knowing, okay, this is bigger than me. Like this vision of why I want to do this is bigger than me. If it would have just been, oh, I want to make some money, or oh, I want to, those are
Right.
great goals.
So key.
But they're not bigger, right? And I kept that vision bigger always to keep that confidence, because like it's not about me. And it came down to this one moment, literally probably one of the most important moments in my journey was this: finally got a yes after 3 years of hearing no, and got this one 10-minute spot live on QVC. And I made the decision to, there's third-party experts out, consultants you can hire, and they all told me the best advice, which was probably the right advice because it's all that had ever worked, which was use these kind of models that have perfect skin. And but I went with my gut because it was like, okay, I want to do something bigger than myself. If I'm going to get one shot, I'd rather fail miserably and stand for something than sell a ton of products.
Fail miserably and stand for something. Wow.
Yeah.
Write that one down, y'all. Capture that somewhere, would you? I'd rather fail miserably and stand for something.
Stand for something. But it's hard in those moments. And I remember the 10-minute window. And why I'm bringing this up is because, for me, it's that vision. And I love coming after Vision Week and Growth Day Morning Show and going into Confidence Week, because I think whether it's something like what I'm describing with your business, or it could be something really small, like a personal health goal, it could be anything. But I think having confidence in that journey is part of it for me, is this bigger than myself, right?
Yes.
And so I remember the moment that the 10-minute clock came up, and we were about to go live, and I had that one shot, right? And if we didn't do well, we were done. Like we never would be invited back, and we had to hit the sales goal. And at the time, I was only selling 2 to 3 orders a day on our website after 3 years into building the company, and we were down to under $1,000 in our bank account and this whole thing. Um, and I took that risk of going, okay, I'm going to stick with my vision. And there was one moment, Brendan, when the cameras went live, and it was this 10 minutes, my one shot. You know what I mean? Is my one shot. And I remember thinking, like, for a split second, I went back in my head to making it about me for a second. I was like, is my dress too tight? I felt like sweat dripping down my Spanx. I was like, what? And I was like, oh, no. If I get in my head and make this about me, I'm done. Like, this is so much bigger than myself. And I had to make it not about me. And boom, in my own head, I had to shift to, why am I here? Why am I doing what I'm doing? And it was, my bigger vision of, oh my gosh, even if nobody buys anything and they flip on their TV and they see me showing, Helen in her 70s, all my different models, all ages, shapes, sizes, skin tones, like, and calling them beautiful, meaning it, and no one buys anything, like that, maybe I can at least shift culture a little bit around inclusivity. So that was like the vision I had to keep. But I just remember that moment, because if I went back into myself and made it about me and thought it was about me, I'd be done. I would have been done. And I would have never been able to authentically connect.
Yeah, I
Because
think that you tapped into what you stand for, and you
yeah,
tapped in for something that you believed in, something that's important. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
for those who've been in our community a long time, I teach people to put a card next to their computer that says, "Who needs me on my A game today?"
Mm,
Because many of you, just like Jamie's experience, you'll do more for other people than you do for yourselves. People hope that one day they overcome their insecurities by some magical mindful epiphany trick. And I'm like, actually, you want to overcome your insecurities? Go fight for someone.
mm,
You want to overcome your stuff? Go serve at a higher level that demands that you overcome your stuff so you can serve others. Like I would say, like, that's why I always say, seek leadership roles. Like, when you have to serve other people and inspire other people, lead other people, it makes you confront those parts of yourself that you are insecure about. Or more often, it's insecurity just from lack of inexperience.
mm.
And so as you get out and in motion, you're like, oh, I know this more. It's more familiar to me. I'm more comfortable with it. I'm more comfortable at it. I like it more when I do good. I like it more when I do good. I'm winning. I got some momentum. Now I'm more confident because I'm more capable. I have more competence. So I'm going to try new things. I try new things. I learn more things. I gain more confidence. It's like, it's going for it. But a huge part of that inflection point is that bigger vision, that bigger dream, that higher level of service, what you need to do. Many people, for me, we talk a lot about finances on the show in some way or another. And I never had a financial goal. I wish I did at the beginning. I was around people who were like surviving. So I had like a survival mindset. I just need to survive. That was where I grew up. That's what it was about. There wasn't like an aspirational, like financial thing in my entire community. And so I didn't have that. And then I went to San Francisco, and actually before that, I went to college, worked 3 jobs full time in college. Barely, I don't even know how or when I ever slept. And I just remember seeing people show up, and they had, kids, their parents bought them cars. And I was like, oh my God, your parent bought you a car. I was like, what? Or I met kids who their parents bought them tuition. I was like, someone paid for your school? Like, these were so mind-boggling to me.
Yeah.
And still, even seeing a lot, I still never set financial goals.
Mm.
And then I met Denise, and I started thinking, oh, what do I want our life to be about? What do I want our life to be about? And I started going, oh, you know what? I need to have a bigger vision here, because I want us to go places, and to go places and have fun together. I'm gonna have to earn more. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started saying, okay. And I had a lot of insecurity around money. And I thought, oh, I'm just gonna face that. And the best way to face that is just get in motion and try to figure and learn it out. Because what I want to do is be a provider. What I want to do is create abundance for us. What I want to do is serve more people And you know what? Serving more people will help me earn more too. And so it just like was this mindset shift that probably would, I literally think back, if I'd never met Denise, I can't imagine me having ever best-selling books or big courses or anything. One, because she put so much love in my heart that I serve from a place of love. And that's a big piece. Another one, because it like, I wanted to do good for our family. And that gave me the confidence, like, okay, if I want to do good for the family, show up today. Show up today. You have a dream. You want to care for your wife, your husband, your partner, your team, someone else. Show up for them today. Who needs you today? Jamie was like, she was standing on values and service to those values. You can stand on your dream, your vision, a family member, someone you want to take care of, a cause you want to give to. But the most important thing is every day, put that thing in your head. Every morning, put that thing in the head. In the moments that matter, like she was talking about. Or like Jamie and I also talk about like burnout and fatigue and tired. Like when she's in this big launch for Believe It, her new book, it's like, okay, gotta show up. It's just like, it sucks. You're tired. Still got to show up. That's just part of every day. Show up because you have this outcome in mind. Show up because you want to do this thing for other people. Show up, show up, show up, show up. All right.
And when you say who needs, I know we're going to wrap up, but one more thing to add quickly. When you say who needs you on your A game today, I just want to say this, like, it may not be a friend or family member or loved one. It may be someone in the future who's going to need your story. It might be someone in the future who's going to need to hear what you're going through right now and how you got through it, so that they can believe it's possible for them to get through it too. So the person, right? You might be alone right now. You might, but the person who needs you on your A game, you may not even have met yet. Right. And sometimes thinking about that, because every single one of us, no matter our struggles, no matter what we're going through right now, no matter our setbacks, someone's going to need our story down the road. And that might be the person for someone with us right now who needs you on your A game. So keep that in mind too, because sometimes we don't see it around us at the moment.
I wanted to ask you about something that I think has affected you. I know it's affected you, but so many people listening have this in their life, and maybe they shove it in the back of their mind, but it's still there. And that is this idea of labels. And what I mean is, like, so many of us have had, maybe it's when we were kids, someone called us a name, or we're in a situation and someone says, oh, but you're not smart enough, or you don't have what it takes, or you're the wrong fit for this, or you don't come from the right family, or this, that, the other thing. And a lot of times we then find ourselves as an adult, and that label is like stuck and it's taken root. And now it's sort of coming out in our lives, and we haven't even thought about it in years, but it's still there, that identity. When you were, I think it was 8 years old, you were called Eddie Spaghetti. Eddie Spaghetti. Can you share how that happened and how you did or didn't let that label take root?
Yeah, I talk about this in the book a lot too, is that, and how to overcome it, which I have. That part of me, I've leveraged into something pretty strong. But I talk about in the book that a lot of the beliefs we have about ourselves were installed in us, our identities, these thoughts and concepts we believe to be most true about us, our worth, they were installed in us when we were defenseless as kids. So it's like, be a good boy, be quiet, be a good girl, don't do that, don't make too much noise, and you start to develop this identity when you're young, and then when you get out into the world, because you believe it, you confirm it, and then you gather more and more references for it, and before you know it, you're 20 or 30 or 35 years old, and it's who you are. And you've proven it because of this. Your identity is the most powerful force in the world. You're going to be consistent with it, and most of what you believe about yourself, you weren't in control of believing. It was put there when you were a child. Well, same with me. So you have this combination of this kid who's at home, things aren't real stable there most of the time. Sometimes I feel like I overcook that too, because when it was good, it was very loving. And the other thing is, I had this loving mother 100% of the time, right? 100% of the time. And great grandparents and lots of great stuff. But there was this thing, right? So you have that anxiety going in chaos, going to school. I'm a little guy. I'm shy. I'm very, very shy. You know this about me to this day. I'm still very introverted, which surprises most people because of the speaking and stuff in the show. But I'm super introverted. And I just started to get picked on. And this Eddie Spaghetti, your meatballs, right? Then the class would sing it to me, and they'd see me get upset. And it started to develop into this pattern of you're not good enough all the time. And then I remember, you know, a few years later, a baseball coach, really, I was become a pretty good player, but we had a great player on our team who went on to play like Major League Baseball for many, many years. He's still a really good friend of mine. And I had a couple bad games and I was down. And our coach pulled me into his office. He was sort of a mean dude. He's a good dude, but he was a tough dude. And he pulled me into his office. He goes, "Hey, Eddie Spaghetti, this is now I'm a teenager." And he goes, "Did you ever think that maybe you're just not as good as him? Like, you going 0 for 3, like you can go 0 for 3, he can't. So why don't you just accept the fact you're just not that good?" This was my coach, right? And I remember just walking out of there like, oh. And then I've shared with you another story that when I became a speaker, someone that I looked up to was like, "You know, you're really not that good. You know, like I can't even listen to you for more than about 15 minutes. And then, I used to think, is there something on me that's like, you can just punch me? Like, is there something about me? Like people think they can just tell me these things about me. What is it about me? Because other people aren't, what I found out is other people are hearing similar things. And the truth is I just started to go, I actually asked myself a question that I say in the book. I don't really believe that many good things about myself. What would I need to believe about me that would serve me? What would I actually need to believe about me that would cause me to change the way I show up in the world? What would I need to believe? And all of a sudden, I started to really think about that. How would that guy walk? How would that guy talk? I'm doing an impersonation of this insecure guy. I'm doing an impersonation of a shy person. I'm doing an impersonation of someone who doesn't have confidence. It's an impersonation. It's not who I really am. Well, maybe I can begin to impersonate the person I want to be. And I actually started to impersonate him a little bit. Not fake it, but like, you know what? He'd walk with his shoulders back. His voice would be a little bit deeper than the one I'd walk around with. He'd think certain things about himself. Moreover, he would treat other people a particular way. He would treat other people in a kind and generous and strong way, almost in an overabundance of kindness and generosity to people, and belief and love for people. And a lot of that happened when I worked at the orphanage. I was like, now that's the guy I like. That's the guy that I am. I'm the giving guy. I'm the kind guy. And you know what? I found out when I did that, I took it away from me, as we said earlier, and it was about other people, that I found a lot more peace. So I just started to become that person, and slowly but surely, I think I am that person.
That is really powerful. There's, I'm sure, so many people, I'm sure they'll send messages about this, who, you know, see you online, watch your content, and maybe think that everything's perfect,
right,
and think that you were just born with all of this confidence and with, you know, everyone loving you and millions of people following you, even through grade school, right? I mean, we tend to think those things about people that we don't yet know deeply. And then we think when those things happen to us, like someone tells us we're just not good enough, we kind of hide it because we're embarrassed by it, or we think it doesn't happen to other people. And I feel like you sharing that is so powerful.
Thank you. I think I have a lot of people from high school actually that follow me now, right? When you're, and I think if you were to ask a lot of them, because they've told me this, I just wasn't, I think they would just say to you, like, I wouldn't expect it to have been Eddie. You know, not like he was a complete, I was just there, if that makes any sense. Like, no, I would not, there was no like most likely to succeed in any of my, you know, yearbooks or anything like that. But I don't think by the time I graduated, it wasn't like he's a complete dum-dum, but it was just like, he's just Eddie Milet, you know, he's just Eddie. Like, you would never suspect he would be the person that, you know, might reach a lot of human beings in his life. You know, you just would never have predicted that. And that ought to give everybody hope. If you're not one of those people that everyone's like, no, for sure it's her. I was definitely not that person. You go, oh, just mark it down. He's going to do something great with his life. No, no one was saying that about me. No one. No teacher, no coach. Maybe a couple teachers when I was a little guy, but most people would not have said that anything significant was ever going to happen.
So good. They didn't know you were the one.
That's right.
They didn't know. That's powerful, because a lot of people are wondering, am I the one? Can I be the one? No one's telling me I'm the one.
And I think the fact that you doubt, or wonder whether you're the one is indicative of the fact that you probably are.
Woo!
I do. I just believe that.
That's so good.
And you know this, and by the way, the reason it's good is because you know that to be true about you.
I know that's true, but I've never thought about it that way. I know that's true. And I'm just thinking right now, I have goosebumps thinking about how many people are listening to this. And right now they know that they're wondering if they're the one.
Yeah, and that makes you probably the one. Yes, that's right. And you know this because it happened in your life.
Yes, that is huge. All right.
This is good.
I want to talk about, you know, story. Can you share with everyone this story? I feel like someone needs to hear this today about your first grade teacher.
Yeah, Mrs. Smith.
Yes.
So, yeah, I'll even elaborate on it a little bit. So I had no confidence at all, and I was getting picked on. This is what I think happened. Mrs. Smith was just a super, really kind lady, and we had moved to the town that we were in then, and so I was also a new kid. On top of being small, on top of being Eddie Spaghetti, on top of being insecure, on top of leaving many mornings where my dad maybe didn't come home the night before, or there was just turmoil the night before. I'm just leaving that house, this little dude. I wish I could go back and hug him, you know, which my mom did a lot of, by the way. And so she knew that I just had no self-esteem. And I believe she orchestrated this entire thing, but we were doing testing like for grades and stuff for the next grades. And she purposely had, I believe she purposely did this for me. She had someone come in the back of the room and say, Mrs. Smith, we need your smartest student to come take a test to represent the class. And I could see the person in the back. I heard them. And I watched Mrs. Smith go, that's Eddie, my lad. I would pick Eddie. He's the smart boy. And she picks me. And I remember going, oh my gosh, she thinks I'm the smart boy. And I just looked at her and she smiled at me. And I remember just lighting up. And then the person goes, okay, then Eddie Milet, you need to come with us. And I stood up, and it was the first time ever in my life that I was like, I'm special. This is special. And I walked up and went to the back and I took the test, and I guess I did well. But when I came back in, I didn't say this on the last time I told this. When I came back in, at the end of the day, class was over, and Mrs. Smith said, Eddie, can you come up here for me? And I came up, and she hugged me. And she goes, you're so special and so smart. You're the smartest boy. She just like hugs on me for a minute. And it really changed my life a lot. It changed my life because that was the first time I was like, well, maybe they're wrong. Maybe I am smart. Maybe I am special. And this beautiful soul knew exactly what she was doing. She orchestrated all that. She knew there was this child. I think she had this sense something was going on in my home, because kids don't come like that to school, that shy, that timid, unless something's wrong at the house. And I'm telling you the truth that I've thought about that like hundreds, maybe thousands of times in my life, that event in my life. What a beautiful, beautiful soul she was. So that's Mrs. Smith. It's one of those people, you know, in your life when you close your eyes and you go, there's this handful of humans that make you feel special, make you feel loved and cared for and believed in. And she's on that highlight reel of like maybe 3 or 4 human beings in my entire 51 years. And the reason that that's important is because I've tried really hard in my life to be that person for other people, that they go, he loves me, he cares about me, maybe even as important, he believes in me. And then you show people how to live a little better. And that's exactly what she did. She was a super, super special person. And little did she know that little first grade dude would, be on a show with you today. So.
Last night when we were talking on the phone about this idea about how many people don't feel seen.
Yeah.
And I'm just imagining like the power, right, of her seeing you.
First time anyone saw me. I was telling you last night that a lot of my work in my life has been, I don't know why it makes me so emotional, but a lot of my work in my life has been about helping people that perform pretty well perform their best. And the more and more I've been doing what I do, the more it's occurring to me that that's my role is a little different. And that is that there's millions and millions and millions of people, maybe more than ever in the world, that were like the first grader me, but they're 30 years old.
Ladies and gentlemen, rock this house and welcome to the stage, Jamie Kern Lima! Jamie Kern Lima!
Every single one of us has had someone tell us we're not enough. Every single one of us has had someone say words to us that hurt.